Thanks very much, Dr. Richmond. Parents, friends, and graduates, I'm thrilled to be able to address the PHAA graduates of 2018. As a father of 7 PHAA graduates, Grace 2003, Claire 2007, Leo 2009, Rose 2011, Vincent 2012, Dominic 2015, and Helen 2018. And with Gerard in the program, I know very well the hard work that homeschool students invest in their own education in the high school years. I also know the sacrifices and efforts that parents of homeschoolers contribute in support of their children. For the past 4 years, you graduates have been developing the knowledge base and thinking skills that will enable you to take your place as active, valuable participants in our society. With a sustained effort that produces true satisfaction, you have learned the history of our country and its political system, as well as those of other regions of the world. You have mastered the intricacies of the English language and some of its greatest literature. You have learned of the many remarkable discoveries of science and know that our world is not capricious. It is governed by constant and understandable laws. In fact, we now know that much of nature is so rational that it can be described in detail by the great mathematical systems that have been developed over the centuries, from the Arabic number system to the calculus. Together, these accomplishments make possible our modern technological society, a society into which you are now entering as full participants, a society which, because of its technological prowess, has a heightened capacity for both good and evil. Many of you graduates here will continue your formal education in colleges and universities. Many others will directly enter the world of business and commerce. Some will enlist in the military in defense of our country or embark on other paths. Yet all of you will continue to learn throughout your lives, not only from books and training programs, but also from your life experiences, which, like those of all mortals, will be both joyful and sorrowful, bitter and sweet. One critical fact you will learn over and over and over again from either study, experience, or both is that humanity as a whole, although intelligent, is quite limited in its ability to understand the world. Sometimes we think we have caught a glimmer of the truth, but often that glimmer turns out to be misleading or a mere reflection of our own biases and wishful thinking. As the poet Alexander Pope wryly noted in his 18th century essay on man, humanity is, quote, sole judge of truth, in endless error hurled, the glory, jest, and riddle of the world, close quote. In other words, at least in this world, because of our ability to reason, we people alone can know the truth. No other species can. Yet history is full of examples of persons or societies that thought they knew the truth, but were wrong. Sometimes these errors led to wars in which millions of people died. For example, when communism was seen not as the horror it is, but as the inevitable wave of the future. Sometimes errors led to programs such as eugenics, where whole categories of people were classified as not quite human and were discouraged or forcefully restrained from raising families. in endless error hurled, indeed. Even basic science is not immune to error. Far from it. For example, a little over 100 years ago, all scientists believed that outer space was filled with a substance called ether, which supposedly was needed for light to travel through space. Now, nobody believes that. Yet, to appreciate how very confident scientists of the time were, consider that in 1878, the greatest physicist of his age, James Clerk Maxwell, wrote an article entitled Ether for the Encyclopedia Britannica for all the world to admire the progress science had made. In the article, he calculated the density of the ether to 3 significant features: 9.36 times 10 to the minus 19 grams per cubic centimeters. In other words, the greatest physicist of his age calculated to a very high position a physical property of a substance that does not exist. Just of the world. But despite the endless errors, what progress humanity has made has also been through hard work, catching glimmers of the truth that turn out to be real and solid. One example is the American founders who wrote, "We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men were created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness." Glory of the world. A second example is the English parliamentarian, abolitionist, and friend of William Pitt, William Wilberforce, who, the more he learned of slavery, the more he despised it. He wrote, quote, "So enormous, so dreadful, so irremediable did the slave trade's wickedness appear, that my own mind was completely made up for abolition. Let the consequences be what they would. I, from this time, determined that I would never rest until I had effected its abolition." In Wilberforce's time, abolishing the slave trade was considered economically impossible. Yet, after decades of effort and numerous failed attempts, Wilberforce succeeded in having the English Parliament pass a bill outlawing the slave trade. Although in retrospect, most people see the rightness of Wilberforce's and the American founders' ideas, they were bitterly opposed in their day. The founders, of course, had to fight a war against the then greatest military power on earth, England, to secure their unalienable rights. Wilberforce, a politician, had to withstand the organized political forces of the slave trade that tried to defeat his election. Although he may have been an example of humanity as the glory of the world, plenty of others at the time remained in endless error hurled. I recount these stories to you today because, of course, the struggle to distinguish error from truth continues into our own time. It will never stop as long as we live on earth. Let me tell the story of a more recent example. Guillermo Gonzalez was born in Cuba in 1963 and came to the United States as a child in 1967 with his refugee parents, fleeing the Cuban communists. From boyhood, Guillermo was fascinated with Star Trek and the night sky, and he dreamed of becoming an astronomer. With much hard work, his dreams came true. He worked his way through college and was awarded a bachelor's degree in physics and astronomy from the University of Arizona, and later a PhD in astronomy from the University of Washington. Before Guillermo began his research, it had been known that our planet occupied a very special place in the solar system. If the Earth were a little too close to the sun, it would be much hotter than it is now, and life would be boiled. If it were much further, it would be much colder, and again, life would be unable to thrive. This has been called the Goldilocks zone. Not too hot, not too cold, just right for life. It turns out that our Earth needs many conditions to be just right for life to exist here, including our large moon, which stabilizes the orbit of the Earth. In his own astronomy research, Guillermo Gonzalez discovered that not only did our planet have to be in the right area in the solar system, but our solar system had to be in the right region of the galaxy. If it was too close to the center of the galaxy, it would be fried from the X-rays from supernovas. If it was too far from the center, it would not contain enough of the metals that are needed for life. Guillermo dubbed this concept the galactic habitable zone, and he published about it and other topics in astronomy journals. In his work, he also noted that many of the same factors that allow Earth to nurture life also allow the scientific investigation of the universe. As just one example, the same moon that stabilizes the Earth's orbit also allows the study of the sun during a solar eclipse, shielding the intense light and giving a clear view of the sun's corona. It struck Gonzalez that this and many other such factors were not mere coincidences. Rather, they comprise a pattern. Our planet was designed for life and for exploration. Guillermo wrote a book called The Privileged Planet, laying out his reasons for this important conclusion. And the book was made into a movie of the same name. Unfortunately, an entrenched view in mainstream science is that nature cannot show signs of design. Questioning that view in our time is as perilous as it was in the 19th century to question the economics of slavery, or to assert that the Creator had endowed common people with unalienable rights. A peculiar error of our own time is for influential parts of our society to assume that neither nature nor humanity has any purpose, and to brook no dissent from it. Because of his view that purpose is real and detectable in nature, Guillermo Gonzalez was denied tenure by his employer, Iowa State University, essentially fired. His dream of being an astronomer at a major research university shattered. Fortunately, after a decade of teaching at a small college in western Pennsylvania, a few years ago, he was once again hired by a research university, although not without some major grumbling by his lurking persecutors. Professor Gonzalez's experience teaches us several lessons. First, that the struggle to understand our world continues to this day. It isn't something that just happened in the past. Second, that a person who has seen a glimmer of the truth should expect to be opposed, because it is the lot of humanity to be in endless error hurled. The more important the truth, the fiercer the opposition. And third, being a valuable, independent participant in our society requires you to think that sometimes, on some matters, the entire rest of the world, even the experts, may be wrong. So do not compromise your ideas or trim your convictions to fit modern, contemporary ideas. Contemporary ideas, even nearly universally held ones, can be wrong, as they often have been in the past. Of course, you should carefully listen to other people, including experts, to see if you have missed a critical point. But if, after due investigation, you think you are right on an important matter and the rest of the world is wrong, persist on your course until you are shown otherwise. Our world would be much poorer if Guillermo Gonzalez had shied away from his ideas, worried about what people in control would think, and never published his book or movie. The truth would still be that much further away, and the world of the future would be much poorer if any of you, in your own life circumstances, shy away from what you think is right. So I conclude this commencement address, not by wishing you success for an easy, comfortable life. Rather, I wish you courage, perseverance, and happiness in seeking the truth, both for your own benefit and for that of the rest of the world. Thank you.